Today's episode is about simplifying what we overcomplicate: peace, joy, decisions, and relationships. Our guest has spent decades studying human behavior and helping people realize that fulfillment isn't far away. It's often buried under unnecessary effort and outdated beliefs. Welcome to the show, Angela. It's such an honor to have you.
Well, it's my pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Mhm. So, Angela, you say people make life harder than it needs to be. Where
Yes.
do we most commonly overcomplicate our pursuit of happiness?
Well, I think the main thing we do that overcomplicates our life is that we tend to compare ourselves to other people's lives. And that's become very easy with the proliferation of social media where, you're scrolling through whatever social media app you use and you see other people's lives that look like they're better than your life, and without realizing that all you're seeing is somebody else's scripted, edited, curated version of their life, what they want you to see, and not what's really going on in their life. So it's you're never going to be able to compete. Your real life is never going to be able to compete with their fake social media life. So obviously you feel like you have to do something different in order to measure up to what you think the lives of those people are is. I'm not sure what that is, but anyway, um, and it leads to disappointment. It leads to frustration. It leads to anxiety. And I recommend to people, and I coach people, you should focus on comparing yourself to who you were yesterday and not to somebody else. And try to work on being a little bit of an improved version of yourself each day so that you're uh, really leading your life and not trying to lead somebody else's life. So, in other words, try to be a first rate version of yourself instead of a second rate version of somebody else. I think that's one of the main things people do to overcomplicate their lives.
Yeah, absolutely. And why do you think simplicity feels so uncomfortable for high achievers?
Well, I think people have the idea in their head that it has to be hard to achieve the kind of success that you want to achieve. If it's easy, you must be doing something wrong. And I think what people are focusing too much on the effort and not on the emotional fulfillment that effort creates. I think striving can be fun. It can be challenging, but it gives you a sense of satisfaction and a sense of self-worth. I don't like to use the word self-esteem. I prefer the word self-worth because it focuses on what your value. And if people realize that the journey is where the fun is, it's not in the destination. The journey is where the joy is. And part of that journey involves struggle, it involves hardship, it involves obstacles. But if you keep working to overcome those obstacles, that's where the sense of satisfaction comes from, the sense of real uh, inner peace and joy, knowing that you're capable of doing that.
Yeah, and that challenges the idea that growth must always be difficult to be meaningful.
Oh, no, it doesn't have to be difficult. A
Mhm.
simple taking a simple step. I'm a big believer in self-care. I think it's important for people to take care of their bodies as much as possible because that's the vessel that's taking you on the journey through life. And you're not going to get very far across in the ocean if you've got a leaky boat. And if you're if you're not in as good a physical shape as you can be, and I realize that's different from person to person. Some people have serious physical challenges that they have to overcome, but everybody can do a little bit better every day at taking care of themselves. That might be exercise just a little bit more, being a little bit more careful about what you eat, being a little bit more careful about how much sleep you get. I think we have a tendency to not sleep enough. And sleeping is where your body and mind recharge. And if you're not getting enough sleep, your body and your mind never get a chance to rest, never get a chance to recharge. And eventually that leads to burnout, and all kinds of physical problems over time. So make sure you're getting uh, the right kind of food, make sure you're getting some exercise, and make sure you're getting enough rest. And I think those are things that people don't focus on enough and focus on some of the things that are going to continue to cause them stress and anxiety, striving for something that maybe they don't even believe in because society or their friends or relatives or whoever thinks it's important for them to strive for. If you're striving for something, make sure it's important to you and not to everybody else.
Yes, 100%. And inner peace sounds abstract to many. In practical terms, what does it actually look like day to day?
What inner peace looks like is when you wake up in the morning and you're content. You're excited to get up and see what the day is, what's facing you for the day, whatever it might be. And when you go to sleep, your mind's not churning, it's not worrying, it's not replaying events that happened during the day. Inner peace just means a sense of calm within your mind and within your body. And uh, it's it's not easy to achieve that, but you can work towards it and do simple things every day to bring yourself closer to that inner peace. A lot of people use meditation, which is a great way to quiet your mind. A lot of people use yoga or other forms of exercise. But you need to do something to calm your body, calm your mind, and allow that inner peace to enter. Because if you're constantly stressed and constantly worried and constantly striving and constantly comparing yourself to others, there's no room for that inner peace to come in.
Yes, totally. And what small habits tend to create the biggest shift towards contentment?
The biggest habit I think people can do right away, they can start this today, is to start a gratitude journal. Write down 3 things every day that you're grateful for, and it could be something very small. It could be petting a puppy, it could be seeing a baby laugh, it could be, you woke up in my case, I'm getting up there, so when I wake up in the morning and my knee doesn't hurt, I'm pretty excited. I got a chance for it to be a pretty good day. But be grateful for the simple things, the simple joys in life, and they're everywhere. Maybe you see a bird that's particularly pretty. It could be, I mean, it could be anything, and again, it varies from person to person, but look for opportunities to feel grateful. Maybe a friend calls you haven't talked to in a while. That's a big reason to feel grateful, all right? So, maybe you accomplish a small goal that you had set for yourself. Be grateful for that. But if you can find 3 things every day to be grateful for, what that does is it starts to program your mind to look for ways to be grateful. And if you start looking for things to be grateful for, they're everywhere. And when you start every day feeling grateful, it sets the tone for the whole day. So finding that inner peace and contentment starts with recognizing that just the fact that you woke up this morning is something to be grateful for. Because there are a lot of people around the world went to bed last night with plans for today, and they woke and they didn't wake up. So they never got to achieve those plans, right? So just waking up in the morning is number 1. Be grateful for that.
Yeah, and that reframes peace as a skill, not as a personality trait.
Oh, no, peace is a skill. I mean, anybody can develop a greater sense of inner peace. And I think some people don't realize that that's possible. And maybe it's because of their environment that they grew up in. Some people are genetically more predisposed to be pessimistic or cynical, and or not optimistic. Um, but everybody's capable of finding more inner peace. It's a mindset. And if you've got a mind, you can have a mindset. So it's not something that's beyond the reach of anybody.
Yeah. And you often say attitude matters more than skill.
Absolutely.
How does mindset quietly shape our decisions and outcomes?
Okay, your mindset is really how you approach life, how you approach situations, how you approach relationships, how you approach problems. And a positive mindset or a I have the ability to change or to influence what happens to me is an internal locus of control mindset where you feel that you have control over what happens to you in your life. That influences everything. Okay. So if you have that positive can do mindset, that means that you're approaching challenges, obstacles, and opportunities as something that you have control over. If you have a mindset where life just happens to you and you have no control over it, it's very difficult for you to make changes in your life because you don't feel like you have any control over it. So the positive mindset and the belief that you can control what happens to you in your life is critical. And if you look at what I believe what people are today is the result of all the decisions they've made up to now, whether they know it or not. And on a from a negative standpoint, if you look at somebody, let's say, who has an alcohol problem, they're addicted to alcohol. At some point in their life, they made a decision to take that first drink, right? And for some people, that's a meaningless decision. They decide they don't like it, or they become a casual drinker. But for some people, that leads to addiction. And if you realize that you're the one that made that decision, that means you can make the decision to change that.
Yes, absolutely. And can a strong attitude compensate for uncertainty or lack of experience?
What lack of experience is something that everybody has at some point or another. Um, and it often keeps people from trying new things or venturing out of their comfort zone because they're not going to be very good at it at first. If you want to be great at something, you have to be willing to be bad at it first. Nobody's great at something the minute they start. If you think about if you start playing the piano or another musical instrument, it's not going to sound that great at the beginning. But you have to practice and refine. You have to refine that ability. But many people give up. I'm a big golfer. I love to play golf, and a lot of people take the game up and then they quit because they don't realize how hard it is. So you have to realize that in order to achieve mastery at anything, you have to be willing to be bad at it first.
Yeah. And that puts personal responsibility back in the driver's seat.
Yes, we are. You are whether you like it or not. You are responsible for your life, and the sooner you realize that, the sooner you're able to take control of your life and not let outside influences devastate you. And there are going to be some outside influences that are going to cause problems. They're going to create obstacles. But if you take take responsibility, I'm not going to let this get me down. The world doesn't hate me. I can do this. Then you'll be able to make the changes. You're better able to make the changes that you need to make to improve whatever your situation is in life. If you just think life's happening to you and you're being bombarded, you might as well dig a hole and crawl in.
Yeah. So relationships play a huge role in joy. What
Yes.
patterns most often sabotage otherwise good connections?
Well, the things that I think the thing that sabotages most relationships are each person expects the other person to change to suit them. And the best relationships are the ones where each person accepts the other person for who they are and even finds joy in the quirks that each person has. People have little idiosyncrasies that uh, can either be irritating as hell or they can be endearing. And the best relationships are the ones where the people find each other's idiosyncrasies endearing and they're tolerant of each other and they're patient with each other and they listen to each other. And uh, no matter what kind of relationship it is, whether it be a work relationship, a friendship relationship, a romantic relationship, a family relationship, the relationships that tend to last are the ones when the two people genuinely like each other. I think it's much more important in romantic relationships that passion over time eventually dissipates a little bit. But the friendship aspect, if you just genuinely like that person and genuinely enjoy spending time with that person, that's the kind of relationship that's going to last, where each person's not expecting much from the other person. Because if you're expecting something from another person and the other person doesn't even know what you're expecting from them or isn't able to provide what you're expecting for them, there's going to be disappointment. There's going to be frustration, and those relationships aren't going to last. And not all relationships are meant to last a lifetime. Relationships have a beginning, a middle, and an end. For some relationships, that end is when the one person dies. And for some other relationships, it could be more somebody moved to a different city and it was very difficult to maintain that relationship. Sometimes people just outgrow the other person. But the relationships that give you the most joy are the ones where you just genuinely like the other person that you're dealing with.
Yes, for sure. And how can someone course correct without trying to control the other person?
Well, I think controlling the other person is a recipe for disaster. I mean, because people are gonna push if you're trying to control somebody, they're either gonna push back, they're gonna withdraw, or they're gonna get aggressive because people don't like to be controlled. So, uh, w what you can do is listen to the other person, and you can make a suggestion. And if the person takes the suggestion, great, and if they don't take the suggestion, that's great too. But in a relationship where two people like each other, they're open enough to say, "What you doing there, it doesn't seem to be working. Have you tried you wanna try something else maybe?" And say it away. And they might say, "Nah, I'm alright." And you just gotta live with that. You can't control another person. All you can control is yourself. And to the extent that you have control over yourself, you're not gonna need to control anybody else. And to the extent that you're projecting joy, projecting happiness, projecting a positive attitude, people are gonna be drawn to you because people wanna be around happy, successful, joyful people. People do not wanna be around miserable people. The saying "misery loves company" is wrong. Misery loves miserable company. Misery doesn't like being around happy people. So if you're wondering why you don't have a lot of friends, look at your attitude. Maybe you're projecting so much negativity that nobody wants to be around you. Just a thought.
Yeah. And that highlights growth without blame. A tough but freeing concept.
Yes, grow you shouldn't nobody should feel guilty about improving themselves because everybody's capable of doing that. And it's a a truism almost that your friends and family are the best at making you feel guilty. In fact, some families, the whole family dynamic is built on guilt. But I think if you're focusing on being the best version of yourself, improving yourself a little bit every day, there's no reason to feel guilty about that. There's no reason to feel that you're neglecting somebody else because of that. I really believe you've got to take care of yourself first before you can take care of anybody else. You've got to love yourself first before you can love anybody else. And if you don't love yourself, why would you expect anybody else to love you? I mean, you know yourself better than anybody. And if you don't love yourself, you really can't expect anybody else to feel that great about you. So work on being the best version of yourself and learning to love yourself. And you'll be amazed at how people will be drawn to you.
Yes, 100%. And if people are capable of dramatic change, what usually holds them back from starting?
What hold because they're afraid it might not work, or they're afraid that it's too hard. And the biggest thing that keeps people from being the best version of themselves is fear. Fear of the unknown, fear of change, fear of disappointment, fear of rejection. There are all kinds of fears that people have. But the people who accomplish things in life, whether they be small or big, at a certain point have to look past that fear to what the end result's going to be. And especially the fear of disappointment and fear of rejection, those are outside influences. You can't control whether somebody's gonna reject you or not. You can't control whether somebody's gonna be disappointed in you or not. And, I've said for a long time, if you're worried about what other people think of you, you're only responsible for your character, not your reputation. Your reputation comes from others, your character comes from yourself. So the biggest thing that keeps people from making those changes in their life is that they're just afraid. And most of the things that they're afraid of never actually happen.
Yes. And this makes transformation feel focused instead of overwhelming.
Well, I think it's important not to bite off more than you can chew at one time. Focus on small, achievable, measurable goals. If you say, let's say you're overweight, and let's say you're 100 pounds overweight. And I actually, in my book, I mentioned somebody who was 200 pounds overweight, and he said he was going to lose 200 pounds. And he did, but he did it by focusing on, I want to lose 5 pounds a week. When you're 200 pounds overweight, it's not that hard to lose 5 pounds a week. Okay. Instead of saying, I'm going to lose 200 pounds, and then how the hell am I going to lose 200 pounds? He broke it down into something that's short, measurable, and he can monitor his progress really easily. So if you've got a big goal, break it down into a bunch of little goals. That way you don't feel overwhelmed. And you can measure your progress. And if you make it a little back step or you plateau, everybody's journey is not going to be one straight line up to success. There's going to be plateaus, there's going to be setbacks. But if you break your goals down small enough, you can measure that. I had a little setback next week, so maybe I got to up it just a little bit this week and not give up. The way the reason people get overwhelmed is that they set these monumental goals and they have no idea how they're going to get there. And if they don't make dramatic progress all the time, they get discouraged.
Yes, definitely. So, joy doesn't demand perfection, it asks for awareness, intention, and courage to choose differently. If today's conversation resonated, take one decision back into your hands this week and make it simpler, not harder, because an easier life doesn't mean a smaller one, it means a truer one.